Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of We're Never Stuck. And I'm Lily, and this is
Hi.
Falon. We were going to start with some updates. Falon, do you want to start? I know that you've had, well, also exciting news because Falon is now a Three Principles apprentice. So in the Three Principles global community, yay!
I am so excited. I like want to check my phone when I got that email. Because it's funny because I texted you, like emailed, like messaged you. I'm like, it's not here yet. And I've been checking my Gmail every day. And then like 2 seconds later, I was like, let me just check one more time. And it was there. And I'm like, oh my God, I lied to Lily. Like I didn't even know. And I like just wanted to check my phone because I've been
I
waiting.
I know. I think you know what. So Bonnie was in charge of doing all of that. And so when you applied, I emailed Bonnie, like letting her know. And then she wrote back and she said, oh, I'm leaving. And so it's going to be Kate here, who actually, and I love it's Kate Roberts. I didn't know it was her. And so I think it was maybe the changing of the hands that took a little bit of time. But
Yeah,
I'm really excited that
I
you're,
can't start.
I
I'm
know.
just like, I'm looking at all of it, like just browsing through it. And I'm hoping there's like some more, like, because it says like different meetings, but like September's pretty much over. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to see what's next.
You'll get a whole thing on that, when you go on to your apprentice, it will say like October happenings.
Yeah.
And then you can join them all. So if anybody you're listening, you're like, what are you guys talking about? So Fallon and I both love the three principles of understanding. And so some of my basic really training was in the three principles global community, which is an amazing community. And I became a registered practitioner through there. And how you can start is by being an apprentice practitioner, which is what I did. And it's really, there's just a really great, gives you a really great foundation for deepening your understanding of the principles, but how to share it and how to coach based on the three principles. And there's so many like support offerings each month where you can um like have like watch live coaching demos. So you can do it, you can actually volunteer to be the client and have somebody coach you, and also you can submit your videos of you coaching a client and people will give you feedback. So it's if anyone is interested, I also know they're changing it up, so even if you don't want to be a coach, you can be a member of the three principles global community and
Ooh,
um get access to some of those videos. So it's 3pgc, I think it's .org. Let me check. I'll try to put the link. What is it? 3pgc, yeah, 3pgc.org. It's the three principles global community.
a little bit of a tongue twister, I felt.
I I
I
know.
was so excited though to see, like, but sad, like George Pransky on there.
Oh,
But
he'll be
I
back.
love him. I know, I'm waiting to like, I hope he like does something again because I
Yeah.
would love to. That would be so exciting.
You can watch the recording.
Yeah, I know, but it would be cool to have it live.
Have him live. I know. I know. Fallon was saying that it was like just, I think it was September 20th, George was doing a demo. But there's so many really wonderful people that do demos and that give talks. It's an invaluable resource. So,
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
excited.
Okay. Well, what else is new? I know we were kind of DMing about stuff, but you want to share a little bit
Yeah.
about any
I've been
insight on
sick.
that?
So that was like came out of nowhere. Like it was so bad, but it was like so cool to be sick with like a deeper understanding of like human experience. Like I could not breathe. And like my husband, he put the pulse socks like on my finger. We have one because my daughter has like bad asthma. And it was like 87. So I'm like texting my friend, like, is it normal? Like blah blah blah. And I just really couldn't breathe. And I just like knew that I needed to go to the doctors. And it was a difference though. Like you start to see, I just started to see the difference of like, I was really sick and it wasn't my anxiety. It wasn't my consciousness bringing anything to life. Like, and like I had a split second where I was like, you're probably going to die today. But no, I went to the doctors and got put on some meds and it wasn't COVID, thank God. Because my 14-year-old, he had COVID and he was fine too. But
Yeah.
I think the best part about it was So I'm not smoking.
Oh my God. That was fast.
I couldn't breathe. Well, I mean,
Oh,
I may have had like a couple drags like here and there, but I'm not, I couldn't, it was that bad. That's how bad I couldn't breathe. It was like God knew I wanted to quit October 1st and he's like, here you go.
oh my God. Isn't that weird? I feel like sometimes we have an illness and it just is like a great opportunity for something.
That's what I was thinking. And also like, I think like the understanding kind of like went deeper to just like, I knew I couldn't breathe, but I wasn't like 100% like anxious about it because I knew I was sick, and like things were causing it. Like it wasn't just an out of the blue thing. It did make me a little nervous at like times, but it's like my body knew what to do. And I had to sleep. I just had to sleep. I
Yeah. Well, how do you think it would have been if you were this sick and you had trouble breathing like 8 months ago? What do you think the
would have been
difference?
in the hospital thinking I was dying.
Okay.
Yeah, I would actually too. Like I had that thought, like maybe I should go to the hospital. But I just really just went to the doctors, went and got my medicine, took my medicine, took like my inhalers, and I just started to slowly feel better, went to sleep, woke up the next day, I was a little better. And I was like kind of glad that I didn't jump straight to that because the old Fallon would have, we're there. We're at the ER because today's the day. I would have been calling my mom, telling her that today's the day I'm going to
Yeah.
stop breathing.
I think it's, when I was really sick a couple months ago, I was like throwing up. And I'd never been that sick for like 30 years. And I'd never been that sick having diabetes. And so I did have this thought like, should I be hospitalized? Like, should I go to the hospital? Um, and I wanted to say that because I think we can have all types of thoughts, but I had that thought. And then right after I had the knowledge or just had this feeling like I'll know when to go to the hospital. Like I don't need to be on guard. If I need to go to the hospital, I'll know. And so I can just be here and be sick and trust that I'll know it. Like I'll be guided. I don't need to kind of think about when should I go to the hospital. And I felt like when you were
That's
saying that,
actually a thought that I had,
okay, wow.
right? Like I was like, I think it, if I knew it, I would know. There's 911 too. Like my husband can bring. I just like didn't have that strong feeling that I needed to go.
Yeah. I think it's like when you share it, it's like, oh, wait, there's this different way to take care of ourselves, and it doesn't have to involve anxiety, that we'll take great care of ourselves. And even a health thing can come up where you can have difficulty breathing, like your oxygen can be low. Oh, wait, and I don't even have to panic in those situations. Like sometimes I think it seems like unbelievable, like that would have
Yeah.
been triggering. Um, for lack of a better word, but it sounds like your understanding is so deep. And also then you had insights there because you had, when you DM me, you're like, did the three principles change every area of your life? And I was like, yes,
That's
it
what
did.
I know. I was like, wait a second. I should be more freaked out about this right now, but I really I just let myself be sick. I was so sick too. I don't know how, like my husband, he was a big help, but yeah. And it's like your body just starts to like slowly, like when you understand, I feel like from what I have been like going through, I just start to notice. Like when they put me on that medicine, prednisone. I'm never doing that again. It's never happening. I don't care if I can't breathe. But it made me like super irritable and like it's funny that we're going to talk about intrusive thoughts because I was like I'm going to go insane. I'm picturing myself because I was too irritable and my heart kept fluttering. I had to call the doctor about that just because that made me nervous and I'm like I don't care. I'm human and I want to be reassured right now because I'm sick. And they just told me to stop taking it, so I did. And today I feel better. I'm not as moody. I'm not as low, and my heart's like it's been fluttering like on and off, but I can tell my anxiety's bringing it like up for me.
Yeah.
But I'm just letting it be there because I know what it's from. But I
Yeah.
will never take that again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's good information, but I also think like that's really hopeful. I think for people sometimes who might have a hesitancy taking medication, you took it, you didn't have a great reaction, but you dealt with it and then you got off of it. And so it's
Yeah.
not like um Yeah, I mean, I think that's like, okay, so we can take medication. And it also seems like it didn't send you down a rabbit hole or down a spiral or to have a setback. You were able to, with your understanding, be like, I'm really irritable. I have the thoughts and have a kind of a negative reaction to the medication, but still kind of keep your grounding and get off of it.
Yeah, I know I hated it though. It's not that I didn't like, I told myself too I don't have to like these feelings right now, but I was like, normally I don't try medicine at all. I'm not a medicine person, but I knew I wanted to breathe and I knew that that was going to help me. But after a couple of days when I started to feel better, it's like my heart, I was just sitting there and it was like pounding. I could hear it in my ears and I'm like, this isn't anxiety, okay? I think I'm going to lose it. So just got off of it and at least I tried it. I wasn't upset either.
Yeah.
Like usually I would have been like, why did you do that? Like you need to feel better. I just you get like it's not a full I don't care attitude. You're just kind of more I just feel like calm
Mhm.
about things, right? Does that make sense? Like
Yes. Yeah. Well, Sid Banks would say if the only thing people learned was not to fear their experience, that alone would change the world. And I think to me, like when you're saying about feeling calm, it's like you have an understanding and you don't fear your experience. Sometimes you don't like your experience. But like it's like, yeah, I mean, I think it's this calm because to me, it's like this trust, that I think are some like of the foundations. One, I think that it's like the title of our podcast, We're Never Stuck, and I'm wondering if that's so solid that it's like, well, I'm not going to be stuck with these feelings, and also it sounded like or I'm wondering if because you weren't kind of caught up in anxiety about it, you were able to make decisions like, I'm going to try the medicine, I'm going to stop the medicine, or I'm going to go to the doctor, or like, hey, I'm going to go back to the doctor. There wasn't like ruminating, like, is this anxiety? Like seemed like you were really clear of like, this is sickness, this is a reaction to a medicine. Um, so there wasn't that add-on, I think, of like overthinking. Is that right?
yeah, like I had like a period of time where I did, but for I didn't beat myself up over it. I just thought it was like, man, I don't know. I just it's just such a different experience. Like to be like I know like what's going on. I didn't like fully jump to conclusions, but I still had like this semi bit of fear deep down, obviously, because like
Yeah.
you're human and you can't when you can't breathe. I
Yeah.
couldn't breathe. So, but I just feel like I got through it, and then I didn't. The old Fallon would have beat myself up because I screwed up. I didn't stay on the medicine. I'm never gonna get better. I'm probably gonna die tonight because I'm not. I'm gonna stop breathing. It's gonna be asthma. I didn't do any of that.
Yeah.
I will be honest though, the heart fluttering thing, it freaked me out a little still, but I just told myself I'm human and if I need reassurance from the doctor, it's fine. I'm not having a setback. I just want to make sure like my heart skip, is it okay? You know?
Yeah. Well, we don't win any prizes for doing it the hard way. So, I mean, because I
No.
think the thing is, it's like, of course we can have reassurance.
Yes.
The thing with reassurance is if we realize, oh, this isn't helpful, but it's like, I think when there's also, anybody can ask for reassurance anytime. And especially in that instance, when you're talking about an illness and now like heart stuff, like talk to your doctor.
I used to do that too. Like if I had to get reassurance from somebody, I would be so upset.
Hmm.
Like, no, why did you do this? You keep doing this again. You keep bothering people. I don't feel that way no more. I will call somebody and I'll be like, I need your help. Just because it's just I feel like it's such a natural thing now. Like, and I used to get like beat myself up if I would journal or take a bath. Like, oh, I'm anxious, so I need to take a bath. But
Yeah.
now I don't because those are just things that I do for me to calm down and to feel more present is how I look at it now instead of the opposite of it.
I love that. Well, because when people ask me, like, what should I do, to stop derealization or, whatever they're asking. And I'm like, what you're doing doesn't matter. It's the feeling and the understanding that you have. And when you really understand what's going on, um, the spirit that you're doing something in will be so different. So you might do something, but when it's coming from within and from this understanding about what's going on and that we return to balance and, everything that we know, you're doing it just because, oh, I love this. Like a bath will feel so cozy. Like for whatever reason, like I'm sick, my body aches, or I'm kind of spinning out in my head. I'm going to take a bath and light some candles. You're not doing it because you're, oh my God, I'm anxious. I have to feel better. Like, and then, or you're like, I'm going to journal. I'm going to watch a cozy movie. I'm going to have a glass of wine. I'm going to call the doctor. Like we're free to do anything.
Yeah,
And because I think people get in there so in their head of like, these are bad. It's bad if I do this, or I have to do these things, or what would someone recommend? And then
that's
we
what I
start
how I used to
overthinking.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if I don't do this, this is gonna happen. If I don't, I'm sorry, I gotta move because the cats like
Yeah.
keep bothering me. But I used to be like that. If I didn't like, if you don't go out the door this way, you're gonna have a panic attack. If you don't get home and get to your bed, you're not gonna be able to breathe and you're gonna freak out even more. Like that's how I used to be. But now I just like sit with it. Like there was a time when my heart kept fluttering like a couple times in a row where it made my heart pound and I felt like I couldn't catch my breath. But I knew that part of it was my anxiety. Like, you know what I mean? I knew that I sat there and like fixated on it more.
Yes.
And not
Yeah.
that I brought it on. I think it was obviously, happening because of all the medicine I'm on, but I could tell the parts where I was panicking about it and where it was just happening.
Yeah. I knew last night, I'm like a little sick. My boyfriend actually does have COVID and
Oh no.
I know. And I really don't want to have it because I'm going to see George and Linda and I also get to see Dr. Pettit and my friend Win Morgan and like other people. And so I'm like so excited. So, but I have like a slight sore throat and just feel achy. And so we've obviously been isolated for a few days, but last night I just was like, oh no, I don't want to get sick. And then I have a continuous glucose monitor for diabetes, and sometimes it goes off in the night, and sometimes it's like wrong, like I'm not actually that low. So I just am like, I ignore it, or I'm like, I know you're not real. This isn't really what my number is, but so it went off, and I was like, no. And then it went off again and it was dropping. And so that's when I know I think I actually really am low. So I was like, okay, let me use my meter just to confirm before I eat my little like glucose candies.
Yeah.
It was low. So I like ate some candy and just like laid back down. And then though I had this thought like you're dying and your blood sugar is so low. And I felt like because also I'd been like having just kind of restless sleep, which I think was partially just like my throat was hurting. And I was supposed to hike and see two of my really good girlfriends and go to one's house in Malibu. And I was like, what if I don't go there? And am I going to miss out? And are they going to, my head was just so busy before I fell asleep with like, I really don't want to miss the Pranskys. I don't want to miss my friends hiking thoughts. And then my blood sugar was low. And then I had this thought like, you're dying. And I kind of felt like, and I like felt weird. And I knew then that's anxiety because I was like, you are dying now. But I was like, I just ate another gummy and like fell asleep. But it was like, I think it's interesting where we can recognize what's health and what's anxiety. And it doesn't mean that I know my peace of mind isn't dependent on me never having an anxious thought or what we're talking about, or is an intrusive thought. Like when it's just your relationship to your thoughts. And when they change, it's not like, oh my God, what we're talking about is to me, what I love about this conversation that we're having is like, it's so doable. And I wish people could see how simple, how normal, like it's not like, oh my God, we're these Zen Buddhas and we never have an anxious thought. We like, but
Oh
it's
God, no.
just, it's, a thought can come and, but it makes life just like so much more simple. Um,
I know. I love that you said too, where like you knew that that thought was anxious compared to what it wasn't, because it just like I knew when I was having the heart palpitations and like I was holding my baby, I was fine. It wasn't really noticeable. But when I was sitting down and I was like couldn't catch my breath, started to get dry mouth, like I knew, okay, you're having too much anxiety about that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like you
Yeah.
can just tell the difference.
Yeah. And for me, like I had that thought, like I'm dying. And then it also was just this weird thought. And it was like, what if you have a panic attack? And it was like, "Ugh, okay. Like, and it was almost like, okay. Like, and I just like, for me, it kind of felt like I just didn't go in that direction. It wasn't like I resisted it, but I was like, you're not going to hook me. Like, okay. And then I just fell back asleep. But it was like, kind of feels like someone jumps out and is like, did I scare you? You know, it's like,
That's how it feels. Yes.
like it's like, oh no, not scared. Like it's like someone runs by with a um like a sheet over their head, but it's your husband, so you're like, I'm not scared. Or like your son,
Yeah.
because you see they're little or something, you're like, you're not going to scare me.
That's how it feels now. There's like very rare times where I'll get, I don't even know. I don't get that fearful about it anymore because I know it goes away. Like I know that I'm not stuck. I know that I will return to my normal self that I was before this. And so the fear doesn't come like out of the blue
Yeah.
like that. It doesn't like, well, I think if it comes out of the blue, I'm not like instant fear. Like, this is it. You're going, you're going to go off the wall type of feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. Yeah, even if I had that thought, like you feel so weird. What if you did lose your mind this time? It's like, oh, old news. Like, like, okay,
Yes.
it's like, um, okay, well, should we talk about intrusive thoughts? I don't mean to take a
Yes.
turn, but I know that this is a topic that it's like how to introduce it can cause people a lot of pain and isolation. And I think there's so many ways to talk about intrusive thoughts. I've seen a lot more because also what we've been talking about, these are intrusive thoughts. If we have the thought, oh, I'm going to die, this could be
I was going to
like,
ask that.
yeah, because I think there's various levels. And a lot of my clients that I've been talking to this week have recognized when their thoughts about their health are intrusive. So sometimes intrusive thoughts can be about, like, what if I harm somebody? What if I become a pedophile? What if I harm myself? And some thoughts, intrusive thoughts, are just like, oh, what if I blurted this out? Or what if I have cancer? Or like, you're gonna die. So any thought that's unwanted and we don't want, that's an intrusive thought. And I think it was really helpful for the clients that I've been talking to this week. And it was so interesting because somebody said that, and then I realized that, and then I heard it from like 3 or 4 clients this week who recognized that their health anxiety thoughts were intrusive. And I think what is so interesting and important there is when we can know it's an intrusive thought, we can also know there's no meaning there. I don't have to, because I think sometimes if we think, oh my God, but maybe this is a heart attack, maybe this is a stroke, maybe I do have MS, maybe I had just had a weird deja vu. Not to have a detour, but I was like having weird frantic dreams. And one of them was that I was watching a course that I made and I was talking so fast. And I was like, oh my God, like this is so horrible. You make horrible courses. Um,
Um,
and it was so funny because then I was just talking and I remembered that. Um, uh,
I used to get those and it would panic me to the core.
Deja vu.
Yes, I didn't like it. I don't now. Now I just, whatever, it's there.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting. And the reason I brought it up was I think we had talked about deja vu because it's like I get a weird feeling, like a weird wave of a feeling of
Hmm.
like remembering that. But just like with any weird feeling, it can be like, okay. So back to intrusive thoughts from the detour. Well, I guess I'll end that discussion on like health intrusive thoughts, but I guess to sum up what I felt like was really great insights for people of like, oh, I'm not going to get guidance from that thought about my health. Let me wait a little bit till I have some clarity. Because if we don't ever really want to take guidance from an anxious, intrusive thought, it's like, so, but I know if you want to share a little bit about, also only share what you're comfortable with, but do you want to share a little bit about your experience with intrusive thoughts?
Oh, I hated intrusive thoughts. I honestly still get intrusive thoughts, but I never knew what the hell they were, to be honest with you. And then when they started to come, well, now that I know about them, I think I've had intrusive thoughts my entire life. Because I'll always think like I'm dying. Oh, my heart's beating too fast. That's it. You're having a heart attack right now, and you just had a weird tingle inside your head. Oh, it's probably a stroke. You're gonna drop dead here any minute. Like I've thought that way my whole life to the point where I thought I was like a hypochondriac, but maybe I was just very self-aware of my feelings. But now intrusive thoughts, I don't know, they're kind of just there now. Like I had a thought, like I just like literally pictured punching my husband in the face. I don't know why. And then I just was just looking at him and just shook my head and like just kind of went and did my own thing. Before though, that would have freaked me out because why would I want to even picture punching somebody like my husband or I get it with my kids too. Like what if I just smack them? I could just strangle them. I don't want to strangle my kids, but like that's like these are like some of the thoughts that I'm gonna drop my baby. I'm gonna smash his head into the wall by accident, when they're like really small. Ugh,
Yes,
I hate
I know.
them because I don't only get the thought, I get like a feeling.
Yes, yeah. When I think that's great that you, well, so unwanted intrusive thoughts are often the opposite, and I'm not saying this to you because I know you know it, but for people
Yeah.
listening, opposite of what we want to happen. So, in talking about what if I drop my baby, it's because we don't want to drop our baby. We don't want to punch our husband. That also, I think when people have sticky harm thoughts, it's often because they're really gentle people and like they would a lot of people. I talk to so many men and women of all ages, and they're like, I would never want to hurt anybody. I'd never hit it. They really care about vulnerable individuals. So it can really kind of be ego dystonic, like not the opposite of who you are. Um, but when I first brought my son home from the hospital, the first time I held him, I pictured dropping him and his head splitting open on the bricks. And I felt it like in my arms, like, and so sometimes
Right.
it comes and it can feel like an urge. And I used to feel like if I would be talking to somebody and drinking like hot coffee or tea, it felt like I had almost an urge of like, what if I threw this in their face? And sometimes, so the urge, it's like I think in the book Overcoming Unwanted Intrusive Thoughts, they'll call it like a paper tiger, like this impulse, this urge where there's nothing behind it, that you don't actually have the urge. We can just almost be picturing it happening, that it can feel like we have to hold ourselves back, but that's just not true. But I used to really feel like that. And I know that I've worked with a lot of people and who have felt like they almost have to, quite a few people who will feel like even when they're in grocery stores that they could just picture themselves like hitting people, and they actually feel like they have to hold themselves back, and it doesn't mean that they're likely to do that at all. I think with the urge, when we don't understand it, it's like, why am I feeling like that? But it can really come with that, with a feeling.
I know. I hate Oh, the feeling for me would be like if I was like holding the baby and walking down the stairs, I've gotten it like I'm gonna drop them. Just weird, awful feeling like in your like tingles. I don't know. You
Yeah.
instantly get fear though. Like they used to instantly like I would take a sip of something and think like there's a drug in here and I'd be like, chuck it. I'm not drinking it. But then after I would chuck it, I would instantly, I feel like almost dissociate. You know what I mean? Like and have some like just severe anxiety because you can really like with consciousness make yourself, I felt like high because I thought there was drugs in something, but it was mostly I feel like just intrusive thoughts now that I think about it. Or like if the house is going to go on fire, I don't
Mhm.
like the images. I'll picture like what if my house, did I leave the candle on?
Oh,
And I'll have like this whole freaking story of I got to go and check on it now because like how am I going to get out the back door with the baby? How am I going to get the girls? The boys are on the couch. What am I going to do? Like you'll go into like story mode, I feel sometimes with intrusive thoughts.
yes. Yeah. Well, and I think, oh, there's so many good areas that we could go to, in them. I'm trying to think of what would be most helpful. So, what's your, if before your experience with intrusive thoughts was you really hated them and it felt really strong and you had this feeling and maybe you thought it meant something about you.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
what's
It
it
would
like
last
now? They would
days.
last days.
I feel like like the last one that was really truly sticky was when I first started working with you, and it was like there for a month. I was constantly thinking about it. I didn't know what rumination was, but I was ruminating on it. And it was just like distraught. Like I couldn't stop thinking about it because who the hell wants to keep thinking about this? I think I would think if I thought about it enough, it would go away.
Mm.
And then when I started to learn what they were, I still brought it up to see if I could get, if I was like still like upset about it or still scared of it. And I don't know. I just started like, I still get the same like intrusive thoughts. Somebody point a gun at me. What if I'm in a store and somebody's got a gun? Where am I going to go? Like, I will picture the whole scenario, but I don't necessarily get like that cold feeling of fear like I used to, which thank God. Like, because it was awful. And for anybody out there that's struggling, like I have, I felt it all. You know, you kind of just feel like you don't want to leave the house. Like, I remember I would instantly go into a panic attack. And now it's almost like there's some where I'll be like, what the hell? And there's times like where I just feel so much better about it. Like my husband can leave the knife out, like, and I don't think anything. Not the butcher knife because
Yeah.
that thing's fever. That thing I still like to this day. I don't care if I learn the three principles or not. I will tuck it underneath every single thing in the utensil drawer. But like some of the other knives I leave out now. But it used to hide the knives because what
Yeah.
if I picked it up and chucked it, or what if one of the kids got it and stabbed themselves or something? You know?
Yeah. Well, and I think some of it, what I'm hearing is like, oh, that can be protection of like the kids, but then with intrusive thoughts, I think then they go overboard of like, oh, I don't need to be this fearful. But I also like what you're saying, where we don't need to push ourselves beyond a limit. Like you live a really kind of full, happy, feeling good life. And okay, you want to put the meat cleaver away. I have a stabby knife too that I don't like to leave the stabby knife out. Like, and it's funny because it just looks like a stabby knife, like murder knife. And so, but so I always want to wash that stabby knife and put it away. And like, honestly, I don't have many. I mean, I'm sure actually I have intrusive thoughts. I mean, most days I don't know if I'm aware of them, or sometimes I am because I talk about them every day. But it's funny I say that, but I guess they kind of flow. But I had said to my boyfriend, I guess it was like last year we were watching, maybe he said it first of like this knife. I'm like, oh my God, it's the stabby knife. Like, I just want to put it away. But I think it's like, it can be so, I don't know, just normal. I think with intrusive thoughts, we can think, who has this? What type of person has these thoughts because they're not often talked about. And so, but they're so common. Actually, everybody has intrusive thoughts, but for a lot of
Yeah.
people, they don't realize them because they just come and they go, where if you're, like, yeah, if you're on a roof, you might think, oh, what if I jumped off? What if I pushed this person? Or like you're walking down the stairs. What if I fell? What if I dropped the baby? Like, what if I chop my hand off when I'm cutting? Like, we have these thoughts, but they come and go, and people don't remember them unless they're kind of really weird or really funny.
Yeah.
Um, and but what I've seen with people, every client that I've worked with, is they were at a more vulnerable place. Oh, that's okay. A more vulnerable place when an intrusive thought came. So it, like, I feel like an image that I get is like a table that's like missing a leg, so they just like
Yeah.
not as solid when at a different time and it's for a variety of reasons. Sometimes they've just had a lot of stress at work, or sometimes it's even like they were remodeling their bathroom. And so all the kids, everyone was sharing this one thing, or they just had a baby, or just like they were planning a wedding. Like there's just something where their bandwidth is down. So they have a thought and they have an innocent overreaction to it. And so rather than just like coming and going, or sometimes it can be they read something that like very, very much scares them. Like, there was if they read a news story that something like really horrible happened, and they can sometimes think, who would do that? And I do think probably there is still that instance of their bandwidth is down, or they start kind of get enmeshed in reading about it and then thinking, I would never do it, but would I? And I know that like a lot of that kind of rumination and comparison, because we so want to think, I'm separate, that's bad, I'd never do it. But in a vulnerable position, we can activate that rumination where it's like, well, there's always a first time. No, 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 I'd never do it, and whether it's a story about somebody killing their children, or somebody being a pedophile, or somebody dying by suicide, these really big topics, which obviously people don't want to do. And, but I think when people don't understand how innocent it is to have that thought, that it doesn't mean anything besides that it means the opposite, that you don't want to kill people, you don't want to kill yourself, you don't want to harm children, you're not a pedophile. But even saying that, I know that sometimes can activate it where people are like, no, am I just trying to convince myself? Because with rumination, people are trying to prevent something bad from happening, but they're also trying to prevent an overreaction, and it's just rumination is this endless loop. And when you can get a feeling for it, you can just know, oh, my thinking isn't helpful here, and kind of like just let it be and let clarity come. Because, we always, when we're even my daughter was so funny. And this isn't necessarily about intrusive thoughts, but I think it's about state of mind. So when we can recognize when we're in a good feeling, that's when we can trust our thinking. So my daughter was like, Wednesday night, she wants to go to college in Europe for an art school. And so I had sent her, I was like, oh, let's look at stuff so we can do a tour. So she was looking at she told me later. So she was like doing homework. Oh, she was actually watching, there's this school in the Netherlands, and she was watching people interviews of like why they were there. So she started getting stressed of thinking, what would I say? Oh my God, I'm not even going to say anything good. And then I texted her that my boyfriend had COVID, and she just felt super stressed. And so she's like, oh my God, I got to go to bed. And so I think why I bring that up is taking care of ourselves is actually the most natural thing. So my daughter didn't need to learn any techniques. She, at first when she started to get overwhelmed thinking, comparing the people that she was seeing who were talking about like why they chose this college, she started having like insecure thoughts of like, what am I going to say? And then what pushed her over the edge was when I was like, Brumby has COVID. She knew, I got to stop thinking. I'm going to go to bed, kind of shut the laptop down. And I think why I'm highlighting that is people get so caught up in techniques and what am I going to do, when you just notice, if you notice your room and you notice that you're not in a good feeling, it's just like you shut the laptop, that you just know, oh, I'm not going to solve anything. Because I think you were saying that of like, if I keep thinking about it, I'm going to stop thinking about it. Because people think if I think about it, I'm going to get to the bottom of it, when we're never
Yeah.
going to get to the bottom. There's nothing to get to the bottom. It's really like when we can notice that we're getting muddled, when our thinking isn't helpful, we can kind of walk out of a busy mind and go to clarity, go to calm. Like that's why I use my snow globe. Michael Neal, he's the one who said it. He said, I'm never going to see more clearly by thinking more. And that's so true with intrusive thoughts, because when you set it down, we're designed to come to balance. We're designed to go to clarity. It's the most natural thing.
That was like my favorite when I was getting over intrusive thoughts, like the snow globe. I actually saved my daughter. She wanted to get rid of her unicorn one. No, we're keeping it. I don't care if it's unicorn and I'm 34. But like it's true though. You just get so I would get so caught up. Why am I thinking about this? Like I remember, so my one intrusive thought was somebody shooting me. But then it's because I'm very open about it. But it went from like that to, wait, is it somebody shooting me? Is someone going to break in my house? Am I going to shoot somebody? I would never shoot somebody. I don't even own a gun. I would never even touch a gun. I wouldn't even harm a person. And that it just kept going on and on and on. So, and I just got too caught up. I was so caught up in that. I can have that thought now and I'm just like, I don't really want to think that. And it just kind of just flows, which is thankfully good. But I still have like, there's other certain thoughts. Like, I can never read things if it's about a child. because then I'll think about my kids, or just I don't like to get like, I will shut that off so it won't like, that doesn't bother me as much anymore, because before, I remember if I was scrolling and something bad popped up, I'd be like, "Oh," and it would put me in distraught for the whole entire day. That doesn't even happen anymore, which is so amazing. I don't know how, but it just, that's not there. That's gone. So that feels great. And I think just knowing that intrusive thoughts, like everybody has them, started to make me like, it took a bit for it to like go away and feel like more calm about them. But I used to call people and be like, I had this one friend, Amanda, I love her. And I would just be like, have you ever thought this? And she'd be like, yes, all the time. And I'm like, oh, thank God. Because then you don't feel so alone, because some of them could be terrible. And then you got my husband who can, oh yeah, I was up in the tree with a chainsaw and I thought about this could just totally slice my neck open and I could die right here. And I'm like, did you get scared? And he's like, no. And I'm like, why? Like, why? I would have freaked out. I would have been like, oh, especially if you're up in a tree thinking that. Like, I used to envy him, but now I kind of get where he's coming from. It was just the thought.
Yeah. Just a thought coming and going, you know. What do you think was the most helpful thing for you not to get caught up?
I think once you like, when you, the understanding like gets deeper, you just like start to know the feeling of, yes, this is anxiety. This isn't you losing your mind. This isn't I don't know. It's just a thought. And it's like I keep recognizing like myself coming to balance and like coming back to normal. And I don't know how to explain that. It just flows. Like probably 10 minutes ago when you were talking, I felt like a little lightheaded, probably because I'm so stuffy. But any other time, I probably would have felt like I got to get off this Zoom call. I got to go home. But I just like let it be there. And it just feels so comforting to like be at that level. I'm not like 100%, but it's like you're getting there and it feels like so good to know.
Yeah. When you describe your experiences, it's so similar to mine. And like that it's just really cool because I even had a weird feeling like actually when we started, I think I'm like a little bit sick. And so I had this weird like lightheaded dizzy feeling, but I'm like, okay. Like, but it was like, um, and it's kind of come on and off, but I'm like, it can be there. Which is, I feel like so cheesy being like, it's so life changing, but it's like when you can just have any experience. What I know for me is I have so much more trust in human beings and in myself. Like I don't take it so personally. I don't think I'm unique. I'm like, this is true for all human beings. All human beings are meant to flow through their experience and return to balance. That it's like so much more trust and there's not much fear. Like it doesn't mean that I don't have a tiny bit, like but it's like I'm also just not bothered. I think before coming into the principles, it was like, I want something, so I'm always going to feel good and I'm never going to have an anxious thought. And I just didn't want to, I was so uncomfortable feeling off. And that's why I think so many things didn't work long term because it was kind of dependent on, I don't want to feel off in any way, physically or mentally, and I don't want to have any anxious thoughts. And because then it'd be like, oh, this thing's not working, off to the next technique. And now it's like, I can have any feeling, I can have any thought, like and I feel like you're feeling that too, where it's like it's not dependent on I have to be in good health and I have to not see any article that's going to trigger me. Like, but you can have your preferences. Like I don't actually read the news. I don't watch the news. I
I don't
don't
even
I
have
don't
it.
like I don't want to watch certain things on TikTok, and it's not necessary for me. Like I know it's a privileged thing, and maybe I'll get to a different point in my understanding, but my personal mind just chats too much about the news and about global warming, and like I cannot shine my light and be a happy mama and be a coach and
No.
know like it's and you know like but I'm really happy and I'm really functioning and I'm really good, but like my personal mind just
I wonder if part of
loud when
that
things.
because
You
I would be,
what?
oh, God, here you go. You can't watch this. You can't even watch a scary movie. Why? Is there something like I would go in and get caught up as to and think there was something wrong with me. And now I'm like, I don't want to watch a fucking scary movie. I've seen enough in my own brain during times. So I don't want to. And it's like, I don't want to read that story. I don't want to look at this. I don't really have the news channel. I just have a bunch of streaming like Hulu and Disney. I don't care about the news. If something goes on, I'll find out somehow. But you know what? I
I
have
know.
that app.
I know. You know what's so funny? I watched a scary movie last month and it had cheating in it.
Ah,
I used to really not like, I couldn't watch anything with cheating either. Because my brain would be like, your boyfriend could cheat. And then I'd get mad at him. And so sometimes like one time we tried to watch something and then we stopped. And anytime he'd be like, there's cheating. No. But it was like a couple, like maybe last month, and there was cheating and it was a scary movie. And I watched it during the afternoon. And then the first night I felt like uneasy watching it at night. And then the second time I'm like, let me just try it. And I like watched a scary movie in the dark, which I didn't force myself to do it. It was just like, oh, that looked interesting. But I mean, I didn't push myself and but I think what you're saying is like we don't have to. Don't win any prizes doing it the hard way. And I think when we just are guided to do what feels nice and avoid the things that don't feel good, it can be kind of simple.
yeah, and don't beat yourself up about it, I feel. Because that's what I used to do. I would beat my like really can't watch a freaking scary movie because of a thought you had. Like I would just go too into beating myself up over everything, even not even just intrusive thoughts or I would get a weird feeling and then instantly go into an anxiety attack because I don't like to feel weird. I think that's why I've never taken medicine. I'm not going to be taking something that's going to make me feel high because it's just not how I like to be. But I just used to beat myself up for feeling that way or thinking that way. And now I'm human and I'm going to feel a certain way or something. If something freaks me out, it freaks me out. I'm not going to make a big deal about it. I think
Yeah.
that's like the best thing about like this journey right now because I would seriously make such a big deal over everything. Any thought, any feeling, I would instantly go into it's bad. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but now I feel
I
a lot.
love because you have compassion and understanding for yourself. And I think like my boyfriend was out of town last week. And so on Friday night, oh, like a week ago, I stayed home alone. I did not like and my son's room, sometimes there's this light in his room that goes on. And so his light was on. And then I was like, I like went to my bedroom at like 7:30. But I thought, you know what, if he went out of town all the time, I don't know if I'd stay home alone. Like it was just the one night that I was going to be alone. The rest of the time, like my son was there, and even though for 2 nights my son had friends sleep over, and just to be with 9-year-old boys, I was like, this is so much better. Like,
Yeah.
it didn't have to do with anxiety. I just have a big home, and I don't like it. And was like, but I just had this compassion for myself, like what you were saying. Like I used to feel so bad that I didn't watch the news, and I was like, you're so dumb, you're so anxious, like da 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 da. And now I'm like, but whatever, like I own it. Um,
Right. Yeah.
so I
I don't like
think
to be alone either. I feel like nobody likes to be alone. So
I
I
know
don't really like to be alone.
I don't mind to be alone if I know like people are, but also like, I'm okay with it, and I think before I would just like try to squelch down, and I'm like, no, sometimes I feel like people could break in and the house could be haunted, but like those are also just thoughts. So I wasn't like super anxious, or I wasn't really anxious, but I was like, this is not my preference.
Yeah.
I was like, do not, yeah, I guess I was having, intrusive thoughts of people breaking in to the house. But I'm also like, man, like I know that they are just intrusive thoughts. And I just like took a melatonin and like once I'm like in my bed with the door closed, and that's the great thing because I know that might not be this like stereotypical intrusive thought of like harm, sex, whatever, contamination, but it is still like I was having fearful thoughts about people breaking in when I was home alone. And those too pass. Like, even though I live in LA and there could be more of a chance, like it's fine. They still passed and I read my book and was super cozy.
I used to wonder too, like how in the hell you get an intrusive thought, it's sticky, but then you can have a whole like movie scene in your head while you're driving. If you, oh, I'm just gonna drive off. What if this car came over here, and then you picture the whole accident in your head, and if you made it or not, and that quickly goes away. But intrusive thoughts, like real, like ones that would stick for me, like why the hell are these sticking when I can have a whole movie about a car accident and it's gone in a second?
Yeah, yeah. Do you have any insights about why the other thoughts would be more sticky?
I think it's just because it was more like I don't know, it was more scary for me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
could easily like get rid of it. Like
Yeah.
the other one, I feel like I was bringing that on. Like I used to just all the time, like, oh, what if I got into a car accident? What if, oh, ice is slippery and it's snowing out and car could tumble. Like, but when you're just sitting there doing the dishes and all of a sudden, what if you stabbed yourself or stabbed someone like in your house? I feel like
Yeah.
that was more scary because you're happy, you're fine, you're going about your day, and then boom, a thought like that comes out.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
get scary when I'm laying in bed too.
Mhm.
Is the door locked? Is the baby breathing? Is Aubrey breathing? She was coughing a little bit earlier. Like that's what my brain does sometimes at night. And
Yeah.
I honestly get up and check. Like, and I don't beat myself up that I got up and checked because I just wanted to check it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love that so much because I think what you're saying is, oh, it's possible for even the thoughts that are scary or that come when I'm happy. Oh, those thoughts flow too. Like they're no different than the thoughts about me crashing my car. We can sometimes have that innocent overreaction to them. And I
Yeah.
think what I'm hearing from you, from both of us when we're sharing is like, oh, if you want to check on your daughter or if we want to not watch a scary movie, that's the stuff that doesn't matter. Like those are the little things. The big things is having an understanding about thoughts, about thought in general, and and really seeing how meaningless they are. And I'm trying to be like, what are my summary it up? Like having the understanding makes all the difference. And then the little stuff doesn't actually matter. Like, sure, I can go check the door once because you're not going to be doing it from this anxious, compulsive place. And
Yeah.
you can recognize it too. And that could be a whole other episode, but I know we're kind of coming up on an hour, so I don't want to make it too long. But
I
do you have
know. Oh, you know what I
parting
wanted to
words?
ask though, quick.
Oh,
So
what?
like, so when you have an intrusive thought or like think something like, say you think you had like you walked in somebody's house and you had like, I used to do it too. What if somebody was doing drugs in here and is that why it smells weird? And then 5 seconds later you start to feel weird, right? Is that like something that goes along? I wonder if anybody else could put that in the chat if they've felt like that.
That's
You
a
walk,
great thing to ask. Well, when
because
we
I would get it to where my legs were like numb. Like I felt like I couldn't walk because I instantly thought something was off in somebody's house, and all of a sudden you're feeling weird.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it can be like the placebo effect, or also a stress response. So, when consciousness brings brings our thoughts to life, whether they're true or not. So if I always use this example, if we're walking down the street, like a dark alley and someone's behind you, you can get like your heart can start beating. You can have a physical sensation like you're in danger. You can be like, oh my gosh, I'm about to be murdered. If someone's coming up behind you, and then it's a mom with her baby, and you're like, oof. So we can feel something, whether it's true or not. Consciousness doesn't care if it's true or not. It just brings it to life, and we have a really full experience of it. And so, my sister has like a later in life shellfish allergy. And so one time she was going to try to eat shrimp. And so her husband was like, okay, I've got the Benadryl. And so she tried shrimp and just this little bit of it to see. And then her like throat started swelling a little bit. She was like, oh, my throat's itchy. So she just took a Benadryl. But then my throat, I think I might have lost you, Fallon, but I'll just keep talking for the sake of the podcast. And then my throat started kind of feeling itchy. And I knew it was just because I
Oh,
was thinking about an itchy, swelly throat. That's really what I felt. So I just took a Benadryl. So sometimes if my kids are sick, like, when someone close to you gets sick, and then you can feel like, do I have all their symptoms?
yeah.
I think it's just our thoughts we can have a full experience of them. So that's kind of my take on why you might go to a house.
Yeah.
Um,
Or like when you eat something that you're not sure if you've ever had before, and then you get like a reaction. Like, or I'll think like my throat is like clogged, but I know it's not. I know I'm not allergic to it, but I feel like I throw those into the category of intrusive thoughts now, and I
yeah.
just do it.
Helpful. Yeah. Is that helpful
Oh,
to
that
throw them
reminds
in
I
the
totally had corn. Yeah, I tonight I had corned beef and cabbage, and I have never had that. And I did have that thought, what if I'm allergic to some of my throat? But I just ate it anyways, and it's actually really good. So it's cool to do those things, like just put them in the category, I feel, and it just gets easier the more you get an understanding.
Yeah. And I think because what kind of I'll end on there is we don't want to be guided by our personal mind or our anxious thoughts, so you can rest easy knowing that your wisdom and common sense will take care of you. So if there actually is something, like, I know I'm going to take much better care of myself if I don't go to anxiety about a physical symptom. So I don't feel like I'm gaslighting myself. I'm like, this is actually how I take care of myself. Kind of like starting off the conversation where when you were really sick, you took care of yourself. There was no second guessing. So it's like, I don't need to be anxious around, am I going to be allergic? Am I, like, all these what ifs? I can rest easy knowing I'm made of wisdom and common sense. I'll take care of myself. That's where I'm going to get guidance. I don't want to do it from a different feeling.
Yeah, I love that.
Yay. Well, I hope you continue to feel better and better.
Ew, and I hope you don't get sick.
Thank you. I think I'm like taking a wellness tincture. I'm keeping it at bay, and I am going to feel good, and I'm going to go be off to LaConner on Wednesday to go to the Pransky's Pro Train, and I'm really, really excited. I'll tell you all about it, and then maybe next year you'll be there.
I am so excited and jealous. And I feel like our next podcast, you should talk about that a little bit. I think that'd
Yeah.
be awesome. No, and I want to know what happened and how it was.
Okay, great. Yeah, well, maybe, and then you could share if you do any of the simple premise or the grounding stuff from the 3PGC. But yeah, let us
Oh,
know. I guess we'll see what this one covered, I think, like health, anxiety, and intrusive thought. So we can think
I
of our
think
own.
we should cover emotional anxiety next. If
Okay.
anybody has anything, I struggled for a long time with that.
You know what's funny? I have some social anxiety thoughts about going to the Pransky Pro Train because I feel like I'm out of practice of being social since working from home and everything being virtual. Like, I said social anxiety thoughts because I don't really experience social anxiety, but I've had just some thoughts of like, are you going to be awkward? And who are you going to talk to? And you're out of practice. And so like, it will be interesting to see. So I just let them be there. That's how, if I have a thought, I'm not going to follow it. I don't bring it to life. Like, I don't get caught up. And so, but I do notice that I have some social anxiety thoughts. I think, yeah, as I said, I just feel like I'm out of practice. Like, I'm definitely not as social. I've never returned to being a social since the pandemic.
I really neither have I. And I had such bad social anxiety. And look at me on a podcast.
Yeah. Okay. Social anxiety. That's a great one. And I'll tell you, because I do feel, or I don't even know if I feel it, but I've definitely had some nervous thoughts about going. Um, but I know for me, fear is a really bad predictor because, when you've had fear of like the social thing and then you go and you're like, that was great. So I just know
Yeah, like you're
I
happy.
feel it, my thinking about it. And so I'm like, well, I just let it be there, and I don't entertain it.
I think it's amazing. I can't wait to hear all about it.
Yes, I'll tell you all about it, and I'm sure we'll connect, and we'll see everybody maybe next week.
Yeah, let me know.
Okay. Okay, I'll stop
Bye,
recording.
everybody. Thank you so
Bye,
much.
everybody.